Ladies and gentlemen, and this is How Did Communist States React to the USSR's Collapse? Short animated documentary by the channel History Matters. I guess this is going to be a very important topic in future, the way things are going right now, right? Because there is there's a real friction about this, that lots of people have animosity, let's just say, about collapse of USSR, right? Lots of people believe that that was one of the worst thing that ever happened to them or something, right? Some of them believe that it was inevitable. Yeah, so I'm guessing in the future this is going to be a real topic, knowing the world events that are happening right now. But yeah, we understand that the Western world was over the moon at the collapse of the USSR and the end of the Cold War. Yeah, okay. But how did the rest of the communist world react? How did Cuba, China, Vietnam, North Korea, Yugoslavia feel about it? Find out by watching this short and simple. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there are certain people in the world who thinks that one day this will happen, reunification somehow, right? And let's just hope the people in power don't feel like that in the future. Without saying in too detail, because I don't know how YouTube will react with certain comments that I make. But yeah, this is going to be a real issue going forward. But China, North Korea, yeah, that will never happen in the future. But other, European and I guess Eastern European, whatever, some of the countries, I mean, some of them must be sweating right now after the current events. But yeah, it's just really fucked up time we are living it right now. So let's watch it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there we go.
It's fairly easy to determine that the Western world was elated when the USSR collapsed. But what was the reaction of the rest of the communist world? How did nations like China, Vietnam and Cuba feel about the leading communist state falling apart? So perhaps the USSR's closest ally was Cuba, and Fidel Castro had a few choice words. For a start, he felt that it was completely avoidable and blamed Gorbachev for reforming everything too quickly. Castro was critical from an ideological perspective, but he had much more practical reasons to be upset. So as of the American trade embargo, Cuba relied on the USSR for the majority of its trade. And it's hard to trade with a defunct state, as demonstrated by the fact that Cuban exports to the post-Soviet states decreased by 93% of what it had been 3 years earlier. This led to a near collapse of the Cuban economy, so things were pretty bad. As such, Cuba turned to the Western world and found willing markets, except one for its goods. Cuba's other concern was security, since the USSR was its guarantor and there were concerns about what the United States was going to do. Turns out it was nothing, but for Cuba the years after the collapse of the USSR were extremely difficult. So what about China, the second most prominent communist state and one which had a pretty rocky relationship with the Soviet Union? Well, first of all, Jiang Zemin, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, came to a different conclusion to Castro. He believed that the USSR had collapsed because the reforms hadn't gone far enough and that the wrong people had been asked to implement them. So how did the collapse affect China's policies? Well, internally there was basically zero change, since China was dealing with its own issues and its leadership was keen to push ahead with economic reforms. In terms of foreign policy, the Chinese government believed that the West was now going to focus on fomenting internal revolution there, and that they would use the newly non-communist Russia as well as Taiwan to help with this. Now, the fear of some reverse domino effect wasn't without merit, since only a year later Mongolia would also see the end of communist rule. So what about Vietnam?
Yeah, I mean, China really just... I mean, look at the USSR collapse. No more communism in Russia, basically in Soviet countries. But China's like, fuck that, I can do this better. And still going on today, right? With the modern technology, modern equipments, And China is probably, in graph seen as is going to take over as the most powerful country in the world soon, I guess, right? And they are actually, you can see the changes in scientific field and many other innovative fields where there are Chinese, research team, Chinese, biggest telescope in the world is now in China, right? The many things China is doing right now, which is kind of a frontier leading, right? It's not directly overtake, obviously, right? But you can see the trend that is one day it's going to be way too overpowering, and it's going through all that with communist ideology, which is going to be interesting to see how that's going to work. But yeah.
leadership there was obviously shocked by the decline and collapse of Soviet communism, but the trauma was mostly ideological. Vietnam was primarily concerned with the economic ramifications of the USSR's collapse and so sought to improve relations with China so that they could both be better protected. In terms of immediate fears, the Vietnamese leadership had little concern since they believed that the collapse of the USSR was down to ethnic tensions, something that they didn't have to deal with. And as for North Korea, well, Kim Il-sung and the North Korean leadership were certainly worried about themselves facing the same fate as East Germany and being incorporated into their neighbouring democratic state. However, for the past 20 years they'd been weaning themselves off of Soviet support, and so the collapse wasn't too damaging. In fact, the only immediate problems were that the new Russian Federation called for talks between the North and the South and that reunification should be a potential end goal. Now, the rest of the communist world was fairly quiet about it, and this was because they'd either seen the writing on the wall or because it didn't affect them too much. Yugoslavian politicians, for example, placed the blame on the Russian ethnic majority, since they felt that it was the duty of the country's largest ethnic group to keep things together in the face of any threats, a theory that they themselves would put to the test not long afterwards. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and a special thanks to all my Patreon supporters: James Bisonet, Marvin Cassow, A Man of Culture, Kelly Moneymaker, Danny...
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Putin, right? I mean, he in the recent event that happened, lots of information of him came out, and in 1991 or 1993, he said that this is the biggest mistake that can ever be, or something like that, right? Which is not really helpful, seeing how things are going right now. Like I said in the start of the video, future is going to be interesting, right? And lots of former USSR states are probably sweating right now, rightfully so, with the events that are happening. But yeah, obviously China and North Korea, I mean, after the collapse, obviously China just took the ideology and just went forward with it and now doing pretty well. So even if in the future USSR happens, right, there's a video, I guess it's real life lore, what if USSR countries combine or something like that. So even if something like that happens in the future, which I highly doubt it, China and North Korea is not going to be part of it, no way. Right, because North Korea is doing their own thing too. China is obviously doing their own thing and is about to be the most powerful country in the world or something in a few decades or something. So yeah, but damn. Yeah, first of all, I don't know what to think. First of all, I don't care about politics much. Right, I don't care about the ideologies much. I'm more of a science guy than anything, right? If any of you have been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I'm more of a science guy. So, you know, whether it's communist China or what, if the scientific field advances, I'm happy with it, right? So China is doing many scientific advancements right now, right, with the telescope and everything. So I'm happy about that. But at the same time, I don't know what effects it's going to have going future. Like if China becomes way too, you know, powerful, right? Way too rich and all of our economically powerful, not just that, scientific innovation in every direction. I guess what's the message? Like, okay, communism works or something? Because I don't know how future is going to be, but it's going to be interesting. All right, that was Hybrid Communist States React to USSR's Collapse by channel History Matters. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down if you want to react to a specific video. And yeah, I'll see you next time.